This is CUNY TV, the City University of New York.
Hello, I'm Doug Muzzio. This is City Talk. Attempted rapes downgraded to misdemeanors, attempted robberies recorded as lost property, quotas, stop and frisk, whistleblowers silenced, ComStat, faulty data, Twain's lies, damn lies, and statistics. Here to talk about NYPD policy, police statistics, and lies, damn lies, and statistics are Eli Silverman and John Eterno. Eli is a professor emeritus at CUNY's John Jay College of Criminal Justice. He is the author of NYPD Battles Crime, Innovative Strategies in Policing, the first in-depth study of the transformation of the NYPD in the 1990s. He has also published studies of management innovations in policing and written dozens of articles, op-eds, and policy pieces on police and policing. A survey he conducted with John Eterno 2 years ago created a huge ruckus that reverberates to today. John Eterno is a former NYPD commander, is professor, chairperson, and associate dean and director of graduate studies at Malloy College on Long Island. He has written 2 books, Policing Within the Law and Police Practices in Global Perspectives. And he too has published numerous articles, book chapters, and scientific reports on a broad range of police matters. John and Eli have literally just published a new book, The Crime Numbers Game, Management by Manipulation. Welcome, John. Welcome back, Eli.
Thank you. Thank you.
You guys stirring up trouble again?
We are.
I mean, so far, anything? I haven't seen any blowback yet, but the book's only out a day.
Yeah, the book's just come out, and if the past is any prologue, we should expect blowback.
That's right.
We've had it in the past, and even though we don't mean it as a condemnation, we mean it as a prescription and a way to regain the reforms that the department had previously. But if it's looked at as serious as any kind of threat, which it always has looked, then we're going to be attacked.
I mean, it will not make the powers that be very happy. Why shouldn't they be happy?
Well, there's a lot of information in the book that seriously questions what's going on, including and especially the crime numbers. But not just exclusively that. The evidence is just overwhelming with that. The PBA and the SBA have both come out with it, our quantitative study, numerous other materials, hospital data going in the exact opposite direction, including firearms assaults, admissions, et cetera. So all of these things show that the city clearly is not taking victims seriously. In fact, Commissioner Kelly just came out with an operations order to all of his troops that they need to take victims more seriously. And this operations order, in fact, Eli and I believe, is kind of an indication that there's a problem, there's an issue, and that what we talk about is absolutely true. But it's not just the crime numbers, it's also stop and frisk. It's also summonses, it's also arrests. It's arrests for marijuana violations, for example, especially minority areas, which is a key concern for us.
Okay, so let's go back almost 2 years when you were here last, Eli, in early March 2010. The Times had recently published a front-page story on a survey that you and John had conducted that found intense pressure from the police bureaucracy on officers to manipulate crime statistics. First of all, what is ComStat? You wrote about it in very glowing terms in 1999 in your book, NYPD Battles Crime. First of all, what are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about a system that, when it works well, is an incredibly sophisticated management accountability system, which holds commanders accountable for the crime and happenings in their areas and systematically retrieves accurate and timely information, which is the first principle of ComStat, that you have to have accurate and timely information so everyone can discuss it and be on the same page and look at it. Well, we have found since then, however, that the first mantra of ComStat, to our distress, has been distorted, because now the manipulation of crime statistics vitiates and negates accurate and timely information.
Okay, and then in a sense, the title of your book, you know, should stimulate people to react. The crime numbers game, management by manipulation. What do you, I mean, so the numbers in some ways are faulty. What do you mean management by manipulation?
Because the numbers have to be, the game is to look good. Okay, that's the end game for a commander. Because
And then likewise for the police department and likewise for
the
mayor.
and a matter of fact, it's probably the reverse. It starts at the top. The top needs to look good because they've now committed themselves to a declining crime rate over 80% over several years, and they will not tolerate any increase. So given that switching, given that mandate to look good, you have to play the game. The name of the game is look good. Looking good means getting the most favorable crime statistics, and it means pushing the envelope in order to do that. And so it starts from the top, it goes to the commanders, and it filters down to the lower levels. It's not that the police want to do this on the street. In fact, we have had many interviews, and people have come to us since our first report of our study 2 years ago and documented to us how this is going on. It's also come out in some tapes, as you know. It's also come out in interviews. So this ComStat system, which initially was a way to problem solve and to be a collaborative process, no longer is that. It's been turned on its head, and now it's a top-down direct pressure to make everyone look good, especially the top.
You know, it's interesting. ComStat means compare statistics. So what's going on is that they're comparing statistics to the previous year, and they're doing this all the time. So what they do is they look at the previous year, and they may have had a great year. Maybe crime went down 20%. Now they're comparing them to the past, and they're saying, well, it went down 20%, now you bring it down even more. And we talked about this in the past, so it's like squeezing a lemon. Initially, it's very easy to get the juice coming out of the lemon, but after a while, it's more and more difficult to get that juice out. Sooner or later, you have to say to yourself, well, are we serving the public? Are we helping the public? And eventually, what we've seen through our data is that some of the people, some of the victims are being turned away. And that's why we dedicate the book to the victims of crime. Some of them are turned away, or their reports are being downgraded. They're just not being listened to. Service is lost. Constitutional rights, another issue. Stop and frisk. The pressures of stop and frisk emanate from ComStat. It all comes from ComStat because they're looking for more and more numbers. In fact, back in the...
Excuse me, is it ComStat or is it a use of ComStat?
It's the use of ComStat. ComStat is the mechanism
That's right.
that is enforced, because ComStat is a very powerful tool. But like any
So
tool,
you're saying the tool's being misused?
That's correct.
Yes.
It's totally been turned on its head.
And to a certain extent, John, it seems as if the reason for the problem is its immense success, that if you drive
Right.
down crime enough, then to drive it down even further,
Right.
you've got to do something. Either you've got to stop 500,000, 600,000
Right.
people, or you've got to somehow make the numbers look less serious. Now, go ahead.
I was going to say, in conjunction with that, we've had senior people in the police, current and previous, who have told us, off the record, of course, that this is a crazy system, and the police department should have declared success at a certain point and say, we may go up or down from a certain point, but there is a certain limit. You know, the police have a good role, a positive role in knocking down crime, but they can't do it all themselves.
And then on top of it, with decreasing total numbers and large numbers being involved in anti-terrorism and intelligence at the
Right.
same time.
That's right.
That's right.
So,
And they claim they could do it. Part of they're held
Less
on
with
their own
more.
petard
Less
because
with
they
more.
argued, oh, we can do it. We can do it. But then when crime pops up for a short amount of time, then they admit they need more cops.
You know, and it's a system gone wild. Really, when you get down to it, these numbers crunching things. Let's just talk about a couple of incidents that we have in the book. For example, the chess players here in Manhattan. Here they are, they're just playing chess in a park. This is something we normally, we'd overlook, and we'd just say, okay, fine, they're having fun, no problem. What do? They go in and give them summonses. What, are you kidding me? We have the donut caper in Brooklyn. just a few women eating donuts in a park, they get summonses. And probably one of the most egregious ones was a couple in Queens. And you can see it's citywide because we have Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan, all over the place. But one of the most egregious cases is a case in Queens where an older couple went out to get medicine very late at night. They go out to get their medicine, and they get stopped by the police. They don't have a seatbelt on. The police now, it's sub 32 degrees. It's very, very cold out, and they don't have identification on them. So what happens is the man goes to their house, walks to their house.
The cop had made him do that.
Yeah, made him go to get the identification. So he goes to get his identification. In the meantime, they write this elderly woman a summons based on her prescription bottle. What could be more sickening?
And subsequently
he comes back to the car.
Drives and dies, has a heart attack. And
dies.
just within the last week or two, the woman is suing the city of New York for, I forget the amount, a very substantial amount. No doubt they'll get something. So who pays for this? Not only in terms of death, but the citizens of New York pay for this.
Is this a service anymore? It's no longer service to the community. What happened to service to the community? It's gone. Back in my day when I was working in the field, we would never do something like this to an elderly couple. In fact, we might even escort them home. This is just sickening, sickening. And the fact that we're seeing it over and over again, not just in one place, but we're seeing it in many boroughs. Stop and frisk gone wild. That's another issue. They went from 97,000 to over 600,000 just in the span of a couple of years. And their position is totally untenable on this, completely untenable, because crime has gone down and you need reasonable suspicion to stop somebody. You must have that level of proof. Now, if there are no criminals out there, as they're saying, because crime has gone down so much, how the heck do you have reasonable suspicion if there's no criminals out there? So we've gone from 97,000 to 600,000 stops, yet there are less criminals. It's like there's a criminal on every corner. They're stopping 600,000 people, mostly in minority neighborhoods.
And the impact is what?
Well, part of the impact certainly is community dissatisfaction. Clearly,
and distrust of the cops.
Absolutely. Distrust of the cops, and you're not going to report. You're not going to come up to the report. But there's an even more sinister issue here, and that's something that we base on labeling theory that we talk about, where people are labeled. They're getting summonses for these minor things. They're getting all these summonses. And in this day and age of information, these people are now labeled. So when they go for a job, this is all going to come up. The police department doesn't have to look any further than its applicant processing. All of this information comes up, that they got a summons for eating donuts in the park. This comes up now, and they're getting a job or trying to get a job. It makes it more and more difficult. So these people then have less opportunity in life and so forth. So it can end up actually that these people eventually become deviant or do worse things because of the police behavior up front that is not working with the communities.
Okay, so that's the impact of this type of pressure to produce numbers top down. What about within the police department itself? What is the problem with data that truly doesn't reflect whatever the realities are?
Well, first of all, within the department, it creates a terrible morale problem, because cops, many want to come forward, but they are fearful.
Well, the SBA and the PBA have both come forward.
But SBA meaning the Sergeant's Benevolent
Right,
Association.
right, but individual cops would like to come forward, but they're fearful. In fact, they even say, we know what happened to Schoolcraft, the person that they carted off to.
Okay, let's do a little digression and go right to Adrian Schoolcraft. You tell the story.
Well, he was a police officer in the 81st precinct in Brooklyn, and he was very distressed about this whole issue of quotas and arrests and making the proper numbers and not recording crime. He tried to report it to superiors in the department. He got nowhere. He finally went to the press, and he also recorded roll calls surreptitiously. And he released that to the press, and those were printed.
And there was a 6-part series by
Graham Raymond in the Village
Voice, and Graham was here with you, in fact, talking about that.
And the interesting thing is that he sued the city for he was carted off. He went home from work. He wasn't feeling well. He was in his house. It was broken in by police. a deputy chief, a very high-ranking officer in the police department, deputy chief, and a precinct commander, and other police officers. And he was carted off against his will to the psych ward at Jamaica Hospital. And this was not known to any member of his family. He was there against his will for 6 days. And it was only after his father called every single hospital and found out that he was there, and then he got out. He is now suing for about $50 million. The lawsuit has been going on since then. And not only that, when he was carted off, he had a tape recorder going. You could hear in the tape recorder the police finding a different tape recorder. They thought it wasn't being recorded, but him being carted off is also on the tape. And This American Life on Ira Glass did a program on him as well. So that incident, but police, the reason I raised that, in terms of the impact of the police say, well, we don't want to be another Schoolcraft. So the morale, and they don't like doing this. The police will say, this is not my job. My job is to have some kind of discretion. My job is to try to be a professional. So in terms of the impact on the police themselves, and in addition, another impact is if you want to be effective in fighting crime, you have to have accurate and timely information. There was a story of Harold Hernandez, a retired first-grade detective, who caught someone committing rape, and he was arrested. And then he found this person then identified, I think, 6 other incidents where he committed rape, and Hernandez then tracked it down in the different precincts, and all those were not recorded as rape.
Criminal trespass.
They were recorded as criminal trespass, which is a major loophole in order to escape being on one of the 7 major recorded index crime by which we rate the police.
So let me see if I understand this. So you've got this system then, in a sense, when it goes wild and becomes almost a religion, then it produces certain things like focus on numbers, quotas, tickets, downgrading of crimes, and these have all these adverse consequences. Right. Now, you produced this study in 2010, both of you. Your chapter 6 is really a sort of a classic class school, textbook of media relations and the police. Describe what happened on the release. You released it in early February on what?
It was unbelievable. John and I originally were not going to do a chapter on the media and the police. But because of our experience, it prompted us to look into this area. And within the first 7 days and then within the first 14 days, we were pummeled by anti-Eterno Silverman, specifically mentioned in editorials and in articles, in the mugging the police, anti-cop
idiocy in the Post.
Yeah, and they specifically denigrated, and they attacked the messenger, of course.
Well, then Kelly wrote op-eds, Bratton wrote op-eds,
right.
The mayor wrote.
And what was so amazing was the synchronicity, the commonality of all these attacks and all the themes, that we were anti-cop, that our methodology...
And you claim you're not.
Right, well,
and certainly if you look at the previous books, no.
No, that's why we're passionate about this, because we want the system to work the way it did, and we feel the system, it's like you observe this wonderful person and they go astray, and we feel the system's gone astray. So we were attacked by them, we were attacked by editorials, we were attacked by other writers who were sympathetic to the police, and they repeated the same mistakes. For example, they said, well, the mayor is quoted as saying, well, what do you expect from 2 individuals whose survey was funded by a union? Even though it was reported in the press that the survey was not funded by the union.
But by Malloy College.
Malloy College. And the survey was based, we devised a survey, we came up with the questions, we had access to their mailing list. That was it. So it was our survey, we analyzed the data, we distributed the data, etc. But that was immaterial. So the venomous and the passionate attacks really indicates that this was viewed as a very threatening. And when you say it's a religion, we're the heretics.
Okay, why this virulent synchronous reaction.
Well, I think the
What is it about the PD?
Well, it's the PD and the mayor, because the mayor says, I always respect judgment, but data is the most important thing. And he prides himself as a data-driven mayor in all areas, in education, which has become similar under attack as the police, and in other areas. So we are striking at two themes. We're striking at the narrative that there's continued, uninterrupted crime decline that everyone's bought into, and it's been such a large number, 80%. We're a threat to that narrative. We're also a threat to the system that allegedly has driven this narrative, and that is the ComStat system. So we are outside the church, and then we are being excommunicated, so to speak.
And your defense of your sainthood?
Our defense of our sainthood is that we believe in the system, and it's the others who have destroyed the system, not us. We're exposing the system to the light. We're exposing the underbelly of how the system is being used. And no one likes exposure, obviously, especially if it's not very pretty. But if we don't expose it and others don't expose it, then people are being misled, victims are being ignored, people have been distancing themselves from the police, and the credibility of a system that was devised for good and very positive reasons is being manipulated.
How do you make ComStat better? So we start off with the presumption, as you did in your earlier work, and you did too, John, that this is a valuable, effective, innovative approach to the crime situation. And clearly it has demonstrable results. But you're saying that there are deep flaws. How do you retain the positive elements and eliminate the flaws? What are your recommendations?
We make very specific
Yes.
recommendations in the last chapter of the book. And these can be boiled down to really two major recommendations. First, transparency. The department needs to be far more transparent than what they are. And in turn with that,
what does that mean, transparent?
that means opening up, allowing educators, other people in, other
look at
people
what?
allow other people at the microphone. That would be another example of transparency. Allow the statistics to come out without being sued first. For example, the New York Times had to do a lawsuit initially to get some data. I mean, this is data that the public deserve. We pay taxes, so give us the data.
And
that's
New
it.
York City was only one of 2 police departments of 80 in the state that didn't produce this data.
Which was misdemeanor
Yes,
data?
yes, non-indexed crime.
So transparency and community partnerships. We feel that they need to get back into the communities. Allow the local commanders some discretion not to write a summons where maybe they don't have to, like the elderly couple. And also, we talk about integrity testing. This is something that they did for the ticket fixing scandal. They allowed integrity testing of officers going to courts. They do integrity testing all the time. It's something that's very common. It's not a weird sort of thing that we're recommending. But they never did it with crimes, with complaint reports. Integrity testing is recommended by Jack Maple and many others who initiated ComStat. And what they recommend is that either IAB or quality assurance or somebody have people who are police officers make a complaint and then follow the complaint through and see what happens.
They don't do that?
No.
Not at all?
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. They do integrity testing for ticket fixing, which in my mind is far less than a rape victim. Why wouldn't they do integrity testing for rape or robbery? It makes no sense whatsoever.
But in fact, you guys have done, through your research, and the Times did it, and Graham Raymond did it, they did their own integrity research.
In a certain sense, that's right. And but you need someone, the police to do it, or someone outside the police, because the police have let no one in. They've let no one in. They're a law unto themselves. Every commission that's tried to inquire, they've just rebuffed it. And there was a commission that had some ambit over this, and they rebuffed it.
That was the Pomerantz.
Yes.
Yeah, the police
Yeah.
corruption, and they wouldn't give them
Right.
the data.
So the
Okay, but the mayor formed, Kelly formed another commission in January of 2011 with 3 distinguished former prosecutors that was going to give us the reliability, and they had a 3 to 6 month. Excuse me, where is this?
Yes, where a year later, this was called a 3-person committee. They used the word committee to look at the crime statistics, but their admitted approach, even they're a year delay, and one of the members unfortunately just recently passed away, but They are just going to look at the nature of the reporting system. It's not the integrity kind of system that John is talking about. First of all, they again don't have subpoena power. They can't really get at the actual, they know this, they can't get at the actual story because no police officer is going to come forward. It's like Peter Vallone in the City Council of Public Safety saying, this is very distressing, we should look into this. But he's been saying that for years. And so everyone has been out to lunch on this issue. The political leadership, the City Council, the state, no one is really, there are lots of citizens and there are groups now that are talking about this, the group PROP, to reform the police. There are groups who are activating on this issue and say there has to be some oversight and transparency, whether it's corruption, whether it's ticket fixing or this area and stop and frisk, there's no oversight.
You know, and the press reports indicate that many of these people, these politicians, are aware that this is going on, yet they still haven't called some sort of commission. Now, this commission that we're talking about, it's a toothless tiger. It doesn't have any sort of power whatsoever. No subpoena power, no immunity. Yet in the ticket fixing scandal that we talked about earlier, officers were offered immunity to testify. This is the type of thing. Nothing is going on with respect to crime reports, yet these other scandals, things are blowing up left and right.
Okay, we've got 30 seconds left. New police commissioner comes in 2013. One single piece of advice, Eli.
Greater transparency, oversight, open up the books, be candid. The past doesn't have to govern the future.
Community partnerships. They need to start working with communities. That's the key to their betterment of their system.
Okay. Thanks to you guys. I'm waiting for the reaction. The book is just out. This is my first crack at it. There's no reviews, no commentary. I'm waiting.
Okay.
We'll talk. My thanks to my guests, Eli Silverman and John Eterno, for being on the show. See you next week when my guest will be a colleague, one of the Tuskegee Airmen, and a friend, Roscoe Brown Jr., here on CUNY TV. Hello, I'm Doug Muzzio. Let us know what you think about this show. You can reach us at CUNY.TV. When you get there, click on the bar that says Contact Us and send your email. Whatever it is. Thanks, no thanks, obnoxious, do it. Send it.